Thanks.
Kids got something planned for him tomorrow?
No, they're grown. They're
don't care
doing
anymore.
their own thing. I know.
Yeah,
I feel sorry
because they're
for
fathers now. So yeah. Oh well, Jody Dawson, always a pleasure.
Thanks,
Keep
Ron.
that smiling face going.
Thank you.
And when you stop out here at Oakland Park Avenue, Oakland Nursery, ask for Jody Dawson, and you'll see why I say that. Thanks to all of our callers today. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks, of course, to Oakland Nursery, and thanks, of course, to Grant, to Jeremy, and of course, back at the studios, Emily Vincenza Clark Taylor for everything that she does as well. Now, do me a favor. Think about where you're going to plant some more trees. Where are you going to plant those pollinator plants? Because next week is National Pollinator Plant Awareness Week. And make it the best Father's Day weekend of your life. See ya.
From the Elk and Elk Studios, Elk and Elk, working for every client every day. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO. News Radio 610 WTVN.
Honda lovers, this is big.
The big event celebrating Lindsay Honda's 47th anniversary. Big anniversary discounts on over 1,000 new Hondas, starting at $17 grand and payments from $99 a month. Or
no down payment, no first month's payment, no security deposit, or no interest financing.
0% financing. That's big.
That's big savings during our big event.
All offers with approved credit plus tax, title, and documentation fee. 0% offer may not finance more than 85% of MSRP. Dealer contribution may affect consumer costs.
Spring has arrived. Kurtz Brothers wants to support our local community and make it possible for you to do so too. Take 38% off your order of bulk or bagged mulch, soil and leaf compost, or pay retail price. They'll mail you a Visa card worth 38% off. Spend it at local businesses. Use code KBCARES when you visit kbcolumbus.com. KB for Kurtz Brothers. That's kbcolumbus.com and use code KBCARES or call 614-43-MULCH and mention this offer.
They keep your trucks forever, they're not honest, and they don't call you back when they say they will. Was that your last experience with your fleet repair shop? Hi, I'm Eric Raber, owner of ER Auto Care. We offer same-day service for your fleet, not someday service. Plus pickup and delivery. We work on Chevy Express vans, Ford Transit and Transit Connect, Dodge and Mercedes Sprinter, Nissan NV2500 and NV3500s, and others. We know that trucks off the road cost you revenue, so if you're tired of getting the runaround and excuses, call us at ER Auto Care. We'd love to be your fleet repair shop. When we say same day, it's same day, not someday. For quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing, call us at 614-363-0509. We're just 20 minutes west of Columbus at 8005 Lafayette Plain City Road in Plain City, and on the web at erautocare.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Your station for news, traffic, and weather in Central Ohio. News
We're looking
Radio
good, Emily?
610 WTVN, Columbus, WODC HD2 Asheville,
an iHeartRadio station.
U.S. attorney in New York investigating allies of
What's-
the
I didn't
president
say I
refuses
have to pick
leave
him,
after
just
being
make sure
shown
Papa
the
has the
door
right
by
one.
the Trump administration.
Jeffrey Berman said in a statement he learned in
Hey,
a press release
what- and
he
my
was
last thing
stepping
is
down
Nature
as
Stone?
U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Defiant,
Okay,
Berman
my
said,
thing
"I
is a
have
little
not
bit on the long
resigned,
side.
and I
I'm
have
being
no
told.
intention of resigning."
That's
Berman
fine.
was
It's your
named
show.
interim U.S. Attorney
Awesome.
and later appointed by the
Also,
court to fill the job permanently,
husband won't
and
stop
said he would
annoying
only
me about
step
his
down when a presidentially appointed
he might
nominee
have
is
to just call
confirmed by
in.
the Senate.
I told
Until
him.
then,
He
Berman said our
seriously, we are just.
investigations
I
will
am.
move
I
forward without
we're
delay or
getting almost
interruption.
200
Those
emails a day.
investigations
I
include
believe
one
that. I
involving
told
the
him too. I
president's
said,
personal attorney,
we'll
Rudy
see how busy
Giuliani.
they are every time
Aaron
we go.
Katursky,
It's
ABC News, New
incredible,
York.
and
The Trump
I'm just
administration
getting
has not met
flooded.
its burden in court to
I
stop
believe
a
it.
tell-all book
I
from
believe it.
former
Flooded,
National
flooded,
Security
flooded.
Advisor John
So-
Bolton
What
from
do you-
being
are you there
released,
Friday?
said a federal judge
Yes,
today,
ma'am.
denying
Okay,
the
I'm
administration's
off at 1
request
and
to
I will
block
head
the
straight
book.
to you.
You bet. I don't
claiming
even
it
want to talk to you
contained
between now and then. I
classified
will
information.
The
expect you here.
president's team
Okay, that's
livid.
fine.
Secretary of State Mike
I will be
Pompeo
there.
calling
All
Bolton
right.
a
So,
traitor,
just be prepared.
accusing
Oh,
his
I'm
former
prepared.
colleague
I
of
am prepared
spreading
for you.
lies, fully
so
spun
wasting your
half-truths,
trip if you're
and
not there.
outright falsehoods.
I
ABC's Martha Raddatz.
All right,
will
we
sit
see you
down
in a
with
second
Bolton
here.
airs
All right.
tomorrow night on ABC. President Trump is holding a campaign rally in Tulsa this evening, the first one since the start of the pandemic, leaving health and city officials worried about packing a huge crowd into the arena.
The eyes of the nation are focused squarely on Tulsa, Oklahoma, where officials expect up to 20,000 Trump supporters to pack into the BOK Center in the midst of a pandemic. The state hitting its record number of coronavirus cases this week, and the mayor declaring a civil emergency ahead of the massive crowds. Those attending the rally at the BOK are required to sign a waiver provided by the Trump campaign, agreeing not to sue if they are exposed to COVID-19. The White House says there will be masks at the door, but there is no mandate to wear one.
ABC's Marcus Moore in Tulsa. You're listening to ABC News.
Columbus State Community College has taken down the statue of Christopher Columbus at the school, and now there's the question of a statue of the Italian explorer outside the Ohio State House. State House Speaker Larry Householder says there's a procedure they'd have to follow if it were taken down.
I've asked the staff of the Capitol Square Review and Advisory Board to research it and come up with some ideas on the board for the board to look at on possibly finding a way that folks could have that same, we never even thought about ever taking one down.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine signed into law Friday bills that would provide $350 million in federal coronavirus aid to local government and reappropriate over $1 billion in construction projects, mainly state colleges and universities. The governor also now has permission to freeze the pay of state employees for a full year. The head of the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association, the union representing the rank and file, says it wouldn't be right to defund the Cleveland Division of Police by diverting city budget money to social programs. Union President Jeff Fulmer told Cleveland.com that the city's police department already is hampered by previous budget cuts, and the department is undergoing reform because it's under a federal consent decree. Kids find all kinds of things when they're out playing, and you wouldn't believe what a boy found near Cleveland in the town of Willoughby Hills.
According to police, a 12-year-old boy uncovered an old but active artillery shell in the Chagrin River. The military-grade explosive was discovered Thursday near the Eagle Road Bridge. The boy's mother then called police, who contacted the bomb squad, and the device was safely removed and detonated. I'm Kyle Cornell.
And I'm Tom Moore.
Filling your news feed with the top trending news at the top and bottom of the hour. Columbus's news is on.
All right,
News
we ready to
Radio
begin?
610 WTBN.
For victims of drunk
No,
drug
no,
driving,
no. I'm sorry.
Our grief is unique.
You're fine. I'm just worried.
But you
He's
are
en
not
route back.
alone. You
Okay.
always
I was
have
like,
a place.
Yeah, you're right.
Call our
You have about 1
24-hour
minute.
victim helpline
Yeah, 1
at
minute.
877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Whether in-store, at home, or online, Germain Toyota is here for you anytime with our new Germain to You program. This month, take advantage of rates as low as 0% APR on Toyota certified Camry and RAV4 models. Our service department has expanded hours to meet your needs with pickup and drop-off available by request. Germain Toyota, the right car, the right price, the right way.
Not all buyers will qualify for TFS financing. 0% APR up to 60 months at $1,667 for each $1,000 borrowed. Excludes tax, title, and $250 document fee. Expires 6/30.
Your home is your most important investment, and your garage is the entrance to your home. It's where your kids come in from school. It's where your family and friends gather together. It's much more than just a garage. Now is the perfect time to add beauty and value to your home with an authentic NatureStone garage floor. And every NatureStone floor comes with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty. For a limited time, get our exclusive gray brown blend stone for as low as $2.99 a square foot plus installation. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's NatureStone.
What is your tipping point? What will have to occur for you to say, wow, I need to start thinking about protecting myself and my family? I'll tell you, from our seat, several million have met that tipping point the last 2 months and took the steps towards protecting their family. Let me tell you, if this fight makes it outside of the city, it's not going to look pretty. I lost count on how many conversations I personally had this week alone with people who have met that point. I'm not a gun person, but please teach me about them. Teach me to protect my family. It comes from all ages, all races, all ethnicities, from good people who are scared. A 100% increase in classes in private instruction is what we have seen here at our store alone. It's a good thing because our inventory of guns, well, it looks like it did on April of 2013 when we opened our doors. What is your tipping point? When you go out for dinner with your family and find yourself surrounded by a peaceful protesters trying to drag you from your car? Or is it that your family for generations grew up in Columbus and you are now watching daily as it burns to the ground, every historical structure defaced with vulgar language? This is peaceful protest? This is what our leaders are allowing to occur. They are allowing it to occur by tying the hands of the brave men and women who have taken an oath to serve and protect our community. That's the truth, period. Think about it. Would you continue to show up for work if one day the boss takes away your phone, the next day your computer, and then demands you to continue to work? That is what is happening right here in front of us. Don't believe what you read in the papers. Just ask an officer the next time you see one. Ask if their directives have changed in the past month. Ask if they are allowed to act on seeing a thug who is waving an AK-47 out of their car window at Brighton High. Ask if they're allowed to act on that. We need strong leadership from someone right now, and personally, I have not seen it at any level. Shame on them all. We need somebody to say, enough is enough. Law and order must be restored, and restored now. I hope this isn't consuming you and your family as it is ours. I hope, like many of my brothers and sisters in law enforcement, that you don't have to think twice about having that glass of wine with your meal because you're worried about getting the call to go out and serve and protect. I hope you sleep through the nights and not wake up throughout just waiting for the phone to ring saying your store has been burglarized like so many. For us, this is our livelihood. This is the world we live in, the world we have chosen to live in. We choose to be protectors. You need to find trusted sources of information and make sure you talk with your family about a plan. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, but it must be discussed. What ifs? If you're a concealed carry holder, now is the time to carry. There's no better time than now. We all need to stand up. We can no longer sit and be spectators in this fight. And this is a fight for democracy, a fight for our country. And right now, it's a fight for law and order. We need to make people realize that when talking about the good people of this community, they must not mistake our kindness for weakness.
Live from LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, this is On Target, the latest from the firearms industry, the products and politics that affect your hobby and liberty. This program may not be politically correct, but it is On Target. Now, your host, Eric Delbert.
Good afternoon. Welcome to On Target. We're broadcasting from the studios. That's live at 999 Bethel Road. That's at LAPD Firearms and Range.
That's our show. You took up all the time. That's our show.
We don't have John this week, so I figured I had an extra minute or two.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, guys, another week, I tell you what, just another week of like, oh, my, what is going on? Is this a dream? I will say one positive note, one sliver of a positive note is that I did something yesterday that I haven't done since February. I went to the gym.
Really?
Yeah, huge, right here.
Yeah, I see that.
Did you wear a mask?
Heck no.
Okay.
But it was, I mean, they were socially distanced. You had to be, away from everyone else. So but it was very well done. But, yes, I did make it back to there. So we are the owners of LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, and are active law enforcement. But for 1 hour on Saturdays, we put together a group of firearm experts to discuss new products in the market, training tips, and oftentimes political topics surrounding the Second Amendment. Our commitment, though, is to always bring you facts about our industry and our topics and ultimately help our listeners and customers with safe, responsible ownership of firearms. I struggle sometimes focusing a show on topics other than firearms, concealed carry, legislation, new products. But the truth is for us is that the struggles and challenges of our nation today is intertwined with all of these. For us, gun stores being looted, record gun sales, unprecedented training requests, and of course we're tied to law enforcement. So this week we're going to take a step back and we're going to do what we do best, and we're going to talk about the facts about the case in Atlanta that is just boiled over this week. And we're going to tell you some of the things you haven't heard before, but it's all factual.
Why don't you also talk about the video that's out there, even here locally, about one of our politicians taking a swipe at a police officer.
You mean the Congresswoman?
Oh, well, I didn't want to say names.
Congresswoman. Well, why don't we, since you brought it up, Paul.
You're about Joyce Betty, aren't you?
No, I'm not. Oh, there you go.
Wait, well, it's a fact. It's on video. It happened.
But yet she's innocent bystander.
She was just there, Ed, exercising her rights until she took the swipe at the officer.
Right to abuse?
Right. But that, you know what? I never saw that part of it on the nightly news. Did you?
No, I did not either.
No. I didn't see it, honestly, until the FOP here locally just put the video out. How pathetic. How pathetic. I'm embarrassed for her.
That is their agenda. It's just everything, anti this, anti that, anti police, military. That's what they are.
Well, they're gonna get what they're asking for with no police if it continues. And so this week, we're going to talk about this. We want to hear from you. We haven't been able to take many callers the last couple of weeks. We're going to try to do that today. So if you want to join in, 614-821-WTVN. And if you're out there and you don't want to use your real name because you're in law enforcement, that's absolutely fine. Give us a call. So we want to hear from you. And so we'd like to thank our sponsors first, TTG Technologies, Toyota West, Jackson Lawn Care and Egress Windows, The Trigger Group, Blackwing Shooting Centers, River's Edge Cutlery, CNS Engraving, and LEPD Training Facility, all who make this show possible. Pawpaw.
And before we get too deep into our show, I do want to shout out to a few of my neighbors, good people. It'd be John and Lisa, Mike and Taryn, and then, of course, my niece, Jackie, and her husband, Randy, in Texas, and then my lovely wife, Linda.
Oh, boy, now the show's over.
Show's over. These are probably our only fans, right?
Well, and Emily, the producer,
Emily,
who
yeah,
had a
she's
producer had a birthday yesterday that's very suspect, though, Emily. How many times are you going to turn the same age? Come on.
Why does everyone keep telling me that?
Because it seems like I want to go back through the records and see what birthday it was last year, because it seemed too suspect.
28 last year, and it's 29 this year.
I don't believe it. All right. Well, I'm marking that down.
I'm not lying.
It is on record. But you know what? In today's environment, you can lie. It's all right.
Yeah, but I'm a really bad liar, so I can't, and I feel bad because it's wrong.
That's accepted. That's accepted.
That's okay.
To be a bad liar.
Yes.
I mean, it happens every day in the news.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all right. So joining me today in the LEPD studios, JC is not here. He is on his way back and is actually probably protecting his home right now from the peaceful protesters over there at Andy's house. And
John is the only person I know that carries a firearm in the shower with him.
That doesn't sound all that bad these days, does it?
Got to be a stainless steel.
It is. It is Model 60. That voice you heard to the right is Big Ed. Big Ed, I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of traffic on Facebook there. It's a great place to watch the show, and Ed will answer your questions and help with that as the show goes along. My father sits to my left. Tomorrow, Father's Day. Pawpaw, we're going to get out and put this world behind us, get that airplane in the air.
And crash it.
Huh?
And crash it.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
With all that, getting our minds off of what's happening every day, I still can't get over, the big rush to judgment here on taking down statues and everything. I sort of have a history with the Columbus statue that I think is at City Hall. I have a picture of me and my neighbor back in the days. I was a kid. I was like 8 years old or something like that, wearing a Davy Crockett hat.
Really?
Yeah, that was the fad back then. And our picture was taken. I think it was a dedication. But then again, I read up on the history of Christopher Columbus, and I can understand.
Well,
I can understand where everybody's coming from, but do something besides caving in to the minorities of what they want done. There's a lot of things that offend me and probably a lot of other people, but we're not demanding that things be changed.
You can't change history. I mean, history is good and bad. And you look at Christopher Columbus, for instance, and when you look at him, he was not the most upstanding person as you would put in today's society, but take a step back to that time frame, and it's a different era. You can't judge him by today's standards. Yeah, by today's standards, he wouldn't be idolized whatsoever. But you have to look at it as a whole, and it is history. You can't turn out like a China or a North Korea and just erase it and pretend like stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a middle of the road compromise on some of this stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't look to change the name of our city.
They will. They'll try.
Wouldn't that be monumental?
Yep.
Where are you from? Well, I used to be from Columbus.
A city formerly known as Columbus.
Yeah.
If you missed the show, you can always catch the podcast. It's at 610WTVN.com. We're on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. Facebook, though, is a great place to watch the show. You can see it live. You can watch the interaction during the commercial breaks. And Big Ed will talk to you there and help answer some of those questions. Guys, let's go to the phone lines. We're actually getting some calls in. Mark, you're on with OnTarget.
Oh, thank you. I've just got a quick question. I hope I haven't caused myself a big issue, but I've had a concealed carry since we were first allowed to have it, and I've let it lapse. it expired. Yeah, I've renewed it like 2 or 3 times, and anyway, I've let it lapse. So how difficult? I got it out of Madison County because at the time they were very friendly. Franklin was not. So I got it out of Madison County. So what am I going to be into there to get it renewed?
Mark, no problem at all. The way the law is written, though it is lapsed and you aren't able to carry concealed at the moment, you can simply go and reapply for it. You don't have to retake the class. You can, and then you can, they'll go through the background check again. But there's no issue whatsoever, and you can have it reissued without any issue. You have to pay, I don't know, $50 or $60.
Well, it's $67 unless you're a veteran. If you're a veteran, then that's waived. That cost is waived.
Really?
And Mark, really, I go to Delaware County with my wife, and the folks there are really nice. There's 2 people in the office there that do nothing but handle concealed carry. In fact, I called them the other day, and the lady Megan, she was really nice.
Yep.
You go online, get the phone number, and ask them some questions.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Mark. And really, you're not in bad shape. Let's go to Bill. Bill, you're on with OnTarget.
Hi, thanks very much. I'm calling because I'm a bit frustrated with all of the denigrating comments against the police, and particularly in these most recent tragic events. I have not heard one utterance of the public's responsibility when interfacing with the police. I believe it's a requirement to follow the police's instructions. And what has happened in these 2 events is those people did not follow instructions. And that's what caused us to happen.
Exactly.
Bill, thanks for the call. You summed it up exactly. Compliance. It's something at the very basic. You need to respect authority, respect your parents, respect elders, but all it would take is compliance. In Atlanta, if that gentleman would have just gone, he was cordial up until the point he wasn't. If he would have gone with it, he would have been home that night. Where do we fall apart? Where have we said that now it's acceptable to resist that arrest anytime? I mean, that's why we have a court of law, and it has gone out the window, and it's being further, made to be okay now. I mean, if you don't want to get arrested, just resist.
Don't resist, and then then you have some bystander taking a video of something after the fact, and nothing leading up to what happened.
Of course. Yep. Thanks for the call. Charlie, you're on with OnTarget. How are you, sir?
I'd like to mention something that has not been discussed at all with all this Black Lives Matters crap and stuff. Why aren't they addressing the facts about the crime level within the black community? The percentage of crimes that are committed and so forth. They don't talk about that at all, do they?
Charlie, thanks for the call, Charlie. You're absolutely right. And we tried to do that a little bit last week. Hey, we're not beyond saying that law enforcement, or any profession for that matter, should evolve with times. It's a changing world. We should evolve. We should always be looking at practices and best ways to do things. But you're absolutely right. If you take a step back and you look at the facts, last week we talked about 2000 FBI data. This is the FBI data. This is where it all rolls up to. In that year, 14,000 people were murdered. That's a fact. 14,000 people were murdered in 2018. Here's the other part of the fact. Of that 14,000, just over 6,000 were white people, 7,400 were blacks. That is 52% of the murders that year were blacks. That's horrible, considering that they make up 13% of the population. That should be an issue for all of us to embrace. We should all look at that and say, wow, there is something wrong. You take it to the next level. Of those 7,400, 89% were from other blacks. That's an issue. We're going to talk about it. Ed's going to mention it here shortly. In Chicago, it's that crime. Nobody is talking about that or protesting that. It's craziness. It's absolute craziness.
The biggest thing that I have to say about this is everybody out there that's listening and watching us on Facebook, it's the 1% out there that's being heard. The 99%, like you folks listening and everybody else that I know, are the ones who are doing the right things. We're not burning things down. And for some reason, the left and I have to say the left, is supporting them and making this bigger than what it is. And when we finally have had enough and the government finally listens to the rest of us, we're going to step out and we're going to put our foot down and we're going to say it's enough. But we need to have the people at the top start standing up for what is right.
Well, and that's herein some of the problem, most of the problem. But Ed, how long have you been in law enforcement?
Over 30 years.
All right, I've been over 40 years. Eric, what
Over
about
25.
You? Okay, so what? Do the quick math. 100 years in law enforcement.
And how many times in that 100 years of law enforcement between the three of us have we shot an unarmed black man? Not one.
Zippo. And the thing is, how many? Our exposure to other officers, through all these years.
I don't know.
I have never met an officer that was prejudiced. Never.
You talk about tunnel vision during times of the highest stress. That when I think back over times where I've had chases or whatever the case may be, or foot chases, it doesn't even process to me the ethnicity of the person. It never even came in to play. I mean, I'm
the
so
danger of the situation
narrowly focused on the apprehension or whatever the case may be. It's not even in my realm.
Exactly. And the thing is, and I've said this before on the show, whenever I would make a traffic stop, I see the violation. I don't see the driver of the car. I see the violation.
Exactly.
I don't see the driver until I go up to the car.
Exactly.
But how many times,
I know.
Have the statements been made to me,
right.
you stopped me because I'm black.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
that's not true.
And the funny thing is with that is I pulled over a few cars here and there for
Just a
tinted
few.
windows. You can't see who's in the car.
He can't.
I've had that situation when I was working nights.
I know.
And it's pitch black out, and the windows are tinted. You walk up to the car, and it's,
yeah.
Why'd you stop me? Oh, only because I'm the wrong color.
Yeah, right.
No,
When we come back from the break, we're going to get to more callers. Jonathan has been on hold for a while, and more news. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms and Range. We'll be right back after the break.
Because news breaks in an
All right. I want to see some support out there from you guys. I want to hear what you have to complain about, whether you want to give somebody a compliment, whether you want to say what's going on, why you think it's wrong, why you think it's right. And it doesn't have to be about what's going on today. It could be something else that's going on in the world today. Like, for instance, how about the city of Chaz, or the country of Chaz that took over in Seattle, Washington? How off the wall is that? We have people in there governing their own little town, and the governor and the mayor of that city and that state are allowing it to happen. How insane. I watched a little video before the show today, and an interviewer was talking to the people behind that wall. And it's funny because they brought up, well, you guess you're going to have walls to keep people out. Isn't that what Trump was saying? Wow, how about that?
I know. What temperature you got there, Em?
It is 88.
Are you sure, Em?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just going off my iPhone app, and it changes every 2 seconds. So,
But-
are you going to be there Friday, Ed?
Where?
At the store?
Next Friday? I don't have any plans to be, but why? Is there something going on? I can.
Yeah, I'm going to be there after
Oh.
1 because I'm off at 1.
All right. I'll try and make it back up here to see you.
See, Eric, I'm going to get a whole crew.
Okay.
Hang on, Emily. What time are you coming up?
I'm off work at 1, and I work in Dublin, so you guys aren't too far, right?
Okay, because I go home at
If
2,
an
but
auto
if I know
accident
you're
caused
coming,
you injury, call
I'll
Elk and
wait for
Weather
you.
time.
at 1-800-ELK, Ohio.
Here at BC6 420 weather today. Lots of sunshine, hot, and a little more humid. High of 89 tonight. Partly cloudy and warm. Low of 68 for Sunday, Father's Day. Staying warm, a few scattered afternoon showers and storms. High of 89. It's currently 88 degrees on your severe weather station. News Radio 610 WTVN. Welcome back to On Target. That's Ed. I think that's what they were playing last night at Broad and High when they took over the streets and started the bonfire.
Yeah, they were roasting marshmallows there, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't that impeding traffic? Isn't that sort of an offense?
What about the effect of starting a fire in the middle of downtown?
What about melting the asphalt that's underneath that fire?
Right.
And damaging the road.
Yeah.
Did you
Property
Did you guys hear the call into CBD Dispatch this week, where a guy was surrounded down there and
well,
he
they
called
said
in?
that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah, it is that is true.
I know it is.
It is true. And CBD Dispatch, if you haven't heard it, there's a link on our Facebook page. I think it was under the Channel 10 story. That the guy calls in and says, "Hey, they're impeding traffic. I can't get through. They're popping wheelies." And the dispatcher says, "Sorry, but the mayor has given us orders to stand down."
In other words, they didn't send the police.
Yep. So
now I wonder what's going to happen to that dispatcher.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure she's already been dispatched.
But you know what? Everyone is about had it with that. Let's jump to Jonathan. Jonathan, you're on with On Target.
Hey, I tried calling you during the week to see if your dad and you wanted to go out for dinner. There's a new restaurant that opened up in one of the burned-out buildings downtown. It's kind of a positive thing because the rioters and looters have opened this, and it's a favorite restaurant of DeWine Ginther and the police chief. They have rather an eclectic menu. They feature cracked ribs, broken leg of lamb, a wide variety of knuckle sandwiches, and side orders of black-eyed peas.
Jonathan,
bad.
you are.
You're
I
bad.
tell you what, you are always good. Always good to hear from you. And hey, I did hear your message this week, but unfortunately, when I listened, it was in the wee hours of the morning, so I figured it was a little bit too late to call you back. But we always appreciate you listening to the show each week.
As Mike, a friend of mine on Facebook, said that dispatcher was disciplined for what? Telling the truth.
Well, imagine that. So, guys, we actually don't have much time, but in some of the news that's going around, we started a little segment on the craziness going around, and there's so much of it. So let me see what's here. There's so much. Ed, you want to talk about the Chicago stats?
Yeah, let me go there a little bit. Today, year-to-date update in Chicago, the great city of Chicago. 1,494 people shot so far year-to-date. 292 homicides. 201 of them black. 47% or 47 of them Hispanic. This week alone, 117 shot, 19 homicides. Police officers did shooting year-to-date in Chicago. Figure this one out. 7.
I thought the police were the problem here.
7.
It's incredible.
Out of all of that, 1,400 year to date, and only 7 of them were committed. 7 shootings were committed by the police department.
And they were probably not justified, right?
Oh no, they were all justified.
Okay,
they were all justified.
It's craziness. But who is talking about this? If you go on some of the sites that are out there and watch the daily totals from Chicago, it looks like that clock that you watch with the national debt.
Oh yeah,
it's just running. It's just running. But I guess apparently that is not. That is not as important. Guys, we got to get to the bottom of the hour news. When we come back, we're going to talk in depth, in detail about what happened in Atlanta, tell you the facts about it and some of the things out there that the media is saying that just is not true. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms and Range. We'll be right back after the break.
We're pushing buttons today. You're right, Phil. I think we are. But we need to do that because
we good him.
Oh, why wouldn't you be?
Okay. Sure.
Get banned from Facebook again?
No, not yet. Not
Give
yet.
it time.
Give it time. See, that's another thing. This 1% can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, continuously break the law, continuously hurt people. We discuss it on Facebook, and we get disciplined just for talking about it because the left doesn't want to hear it. Not yet, but give it time, as Emily said. Folks, I'm lost for words, and I know I talked to Eric and Phil, and we're all very disappointed in what's happening. We're all very concerned about what's happening, as I know you are. So just prepare yourself. Be ready. to protect yourself and keep doing the right thing. Don't fall into this false narrative, because what they're telling you down there with these BLM signs and the defund the police is wrong. It's all wrong. I don't know what else to say about it. I just don't.
Certainly, a large segment of these people are hijacking it for the good people who are trying to push a message, you know?
Yes. Not, again, like in any other job, you've got good people and bad people. I am not going to sit here and tell you that every cop on the street is 100% perfect and right. That's not going to be, that's a false statement, and I will never say that. But I have never, in my career, never come across an officer that was brutal for no reason whatsoever other than to harm someone. Never. And out of the traffic, if we took all the traffic stops combined here with all of us that we've made and all the confrontations that we've had with the public, the percentage of ones that went bad versus the ones that went right and were no problems is so minimal.
And Ed, you saw now they're coming out. They want officers to start de-escalating and not reaching for their gun for the first thing.
I know.
I mean, that is the most asinine thing I've ever heard.
Who in their right mind wants to do this job anymore? That's what blows me.
Oh, no. There's no how.
I am so glad that I retired, and then I retired at the right time, because being on the street and walking up to a car, it's even tenfold worse than what it was when I started. And I can remember my first traffic stop over 30 years ago, how scared I was walking up on that car. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's a feeling that you have
Live
to get
from
past.
LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, this is On Target, the latest from the firearms
Give me a
industry,
warning,
the
Emily.
products and politics that affect your
I was
hobby
enjoying
and
your
liberty.
rant.
This program may not be politically correct, but it is On Target. Now, your host, Eric Delbert.
Welcome back to On Target. I'm your host, Eric, joined today in the live LAPD studios. My father, Coner, Phil sits to my left.
And we are live, so every now and then some things might get out on the air.
That's right. Big Ed sits to my right. Emily, can you go ahead and clear the show after us? We're going to need 2 hours today.
Well, I won't be here, so you can try.
Just clear it off. Clear the books and stuff. We got stuff to say. So welcome back. We're discussing the chaos in what is the world today. Before we get to the details of Atlanta, we talked about this last week, but it's worth revisiting because it epitomizes what is going on out there in the world. So last week we talked about some of the false narratives that are being put out there in local media, specifically the Columbus Dispatch. There was something called the duty to inform that was up for a bill a couple weeks ago now. And basically what that says is if you're a concealed carry holder, when an officer walks up to your car, you have a duty to inform them that you have a firearm on you promptly. That promptly has always been an issue. It's ambiguous. It's recognized by everyone as being ambiguous. Do you do it when the officer walks up? Do you do it after he says what he's doing?
Yeah, it's interpreted differently.
It's interpreted differently. So they set out to change that in a good way. Make it more definitive. Give it a defined time when you need to inform the officer. It's a good thing that they're talking about this. And so now that this bill is being put into place where it is after the officer asks you for your ID or upon asking you if you have it on you, then you have a duty to inform. Duty to inform is not going away. It is just being more well-defined. But that's not what the Dispatch reports. The Dispatch, their headline was that in a late-night vote, GOP votes on expanding gun rights. Dems say it's bad for the police and it's bad for blacks. What? So I reached out to old George Shilcock with the Columbus Dispatch. He's the one whose name was on this. And I said, George, what are you doing? How can you say this when it's just not fact-based? And I said, first of all, it's not bad for police. Second of all, it's not expanding gun rights. But you've done everything in that title to disparage the Republican Party and the GOP, and certainly no way fathomable Does this have anything to do with race, sex, creed, religion, anything, let alone blacks? You have single-handedly fanned the flames. And his answer was, we tried to make sure that the Republican and Democrats' arguments were heard in this piece.
They did?
That's a bunch of bull. He should be ashamed of himself. That's just ridiculous.
You mean he finally got back to you?
Oh, yeah, they got back to me, and it was a line.
Right.
It was a line.
I mean,
it's just ridiculous.
Again, nobody wants to tell the truth.
Well, here's the thing, too, and Eric, and we discussed this. I said, we talk about this, and I think the majority of the people that listen to our show, they agree with us, the majority of them. So we're preaching to the choir here.
You're right.
I have not heard one person or seen one person who disagrees
Right.
with us.
So really, it would be really nice if the people that disagree or are caught up in all this hype listens to our show and gets some of the facts. I'm not sure that would help, but in other words, we're just spewing what our listeners, know.
You know what I hope? I hope, though, we're giving proverbial ammunition to people when they're talking to their neighbors or when they're talking, amongst friends, and these debates come up, that they can say, but wait a second, that's not the truth. And to have an intellectually honest conversation. That's what I vision here. It's not that
I think we give them the information they need so they can give the facts.
But but I also think too, just a little bit off the subject. I think we should have a moment of silence here for Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, and I never ever looked at those labels or those ads and thought anything other than syrup or Uncle Ben's.
Well, when I thought about Uncle Ben's, I thought about rice.
Yeah,
and Eskimo pie's gone.
Yeah,
You know what's next?
What's wrong with what? What's wrong with that? Eskimo pie.
Eskimo.
Get
yeah.
out.
Do you know Land O'Lakes took off the lady on that?
The Indian?
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of taking things off, I was talking to the chief, and my former chief, and he saw an article where they were going to stop calling police chiefs.
Are you serious?
Yes. He showed me the article. I couldn't believe it. So when I left, I said, "See you later, Commandant."
So, guys, Atlanta has been the topic this week, actually, for a couple weeks now, and a lot of false information being thrown out there. So we wanted to go through, it's going to have to be kind of quickly now, and chime in with some of the facts about it. Take a step back. That night, the officers were originally called to that Wendy's on a report of somebody passed out or sleeping at the wheel in the drive-through line. Ed, how many times have you had this?
I can think several, and I've seen some good ones.
So the first thing that comes to mind is this person has some type of medical
driver.
issue, drunk driver, under the influence of something, right?
Right.
So the first officer shows up and is extremely cordial, knocks on the window, wakes the guy up, says, "Hey, buddy, you okay?" The guy says, "Yeah, my friend just dropped me off here to get some food."
But
he's in the driver's
he's
seat.
behind the wheel.
Exactly.
He has physical control of the vehicle.
Right. So
Okay.
first clue. The officer goes back to his cruiser, presumably to run him. The officer says, "Hey, can you pull into a spot to get out of the way?" The officer goes back to his cruiser, waits for a few minutes. Nothing. The guy fell back asleep, passed back out again. Okay? And you see this. You don't see this on the nightly news, but if you watch the entire 43-minute video of the body cam, you'll start to pick up on the entirety of the circumstance. So he gets him pulled in. The guy, of course, goes over the curb as he parks it in a parking spot, another sign that he's under the influence of something, alcohol and or drugs of abuse, right? The officer walks up again, and like in so many big cities, his expertise is not field sobriety tests or DUIs. So he calls for somebody within the department that is. It's a very common practice. It has become so scrutinized with field sobriety tests now that if you don't do it precisely as mandated by the NHTSA, it will get thrown out in court. A defense attorney will pick it apart and throw it out. So it is common practice to bring someone who does it all the time, who knows what they're doing. So the officer waits for another officer to come who is that expert officer. Over the course of the 43 minutes, they asked the individual, Mr. Brooks, several times, how much have you had to drink? They probably asked him 7 or 8 times, and every time it was a different answer. I had 2 margaritas tonight. They asked him in another 5 minutes, how much have you had to drink tonight? I had 1.5 daiquiris. Oh, you had daiquiris. Did you have any margaritas? No, I didn't have any margaritas. It's all part of building the case that this guy is inebriated. At one point, they ask him, "Do you know where you're at?" And he rattles off a highway that's in some other county. And they're like, "Sir, no, you're in Atlanta." "Well, no, I'm not. I'm here." "No, you're in Atlanta." So you start to get a picture of that this person is truly unimpaired. He shouldn't be driving. That is something that we need to get him off the road for that night. It's not saying that he's a bad person. It's just saying in this time that he shouldn't be behind the wheel. So they go through the field sobriety test, and they pat him down. And at that time, he has no weapons. So that's an important note. They go through the field sobriety test. He's calm. The officers are calm. Now, at this point, I don't know if they had time to run him, if they would see what his past is. And his past, well, it wasn't always that good. So if you look at his past here, he had things
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say that he had a bad past? I thought
it wasn't good. And you might look at that and say, well, that has nothing to do with that hand. It doesn't, but it's part of the big picture on what's in your mind, what your thought processes is. When you know that Rayshard Brooks has convictions of obstructing an officer, family battery violence, possessing a weapon during a crime, receiving stolen property, felony cruelty to children, false imprisonment, and others, it's in the back of your mind. Now,
he's got a prior OVI too, don't forget.
Right. At this time, he was very cordial. So, you keep that in your mind, but it's not dictating on how you're interacting with them. So many out there have said, well, okay, at this point, why don't you just let him walk home? He claims his sister lives around the corner. Well, at this point, you really can't believe anything he says because he doesn't even know where he's at. So it's irresponsible to do that. And Ed, you can chime in on this. 25 years ago, there was a little more leeway in what you did with an OVI driver.
Got him a ride home.
You got him a ride home. But things have changed. Things have changed because how many times did someone get a ride home and they walked back to their car and drove off and killed someone?
Well, let me go a little bit farther on why didn't they let him walk home. If you folks remember a couple of years ago, there were some deputies up north and some other law enforcement officers, and I'm not going to name what divisions they were, but they had the same scenario. Drunk driver, took him up to a truck stop, told him to get some coffee, call for a ride home, and they tried to do what the people in Atlanta are saying that should have done with Mr. Brooks. And how did that turn out? The subject got back on the freeway, walking on the freeway, and was struck by a car and was killed.
And who was liable for that?
Who do you think that's exactly right? Who do you think paid for that?
Yeah.
Yep.
The deputies were fired.
Yep. Society has caused that change in how law enforcement does their job. So don't get out there and say, oh, they should just let him. It was just a DUI.
You know, in all of this Atlanta thing, the only thing I want to point out that I saw those officers do wrong, they let him drive the car into the park.
I thought the same thing.
Exactly.
That was the worst thing that they did was let him move that car from the drive-through into a parking spot, and they should be disciplined for that.
Hey, talk about crazy things that we did when we were young officers. How many times did we? The guy says, "I just live around the corner."
Oh,
and how many times did we
just
follow? Yeah, we followed him home. So what's to keep us from stopping him to going left to center and killing somebody?
You're right.
So that's you don't do that.
No, and the thing is, when you look at the arrest, if he was arrested that night and complied, he would have gone to their precinct, done the breathalyzer.
Or not, and refused, and still would have went home.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
What?
But Mr. Brooks changed it. This no longer became a DUI incident when Mr. Brooks chose to pull away from the officers.
His decision to fight.
To fight. And not only did he decide to fight to leave the scene, he chose to bring a weapon in that fight by taking the taser from the officer.
That was after he struck an officer in the face.
Right. So that was his decision. If he was simply trying to get away, and probably because he's on parole and he didn't want to go back to jail, but he made that decision. If he was simply running away, I guarantee you he wouldn't have been shot that night.
And the fact is that he had a taser in his hand. He was armed.
He was armed.
He was armed.
So let's talk about that for a second. A lot of debate on tasers. Deadly force, not deadly force. A taser on the belt of an officer is not deadly force. It is a less lethal alternative.
No, that's not true. Not according to the district attorney in Atlanta.
Well, that's how the wind blows with them.
Well, I mean, 2 weeks ago when the taser were used on the two young college guys, it was deadly force.
Right.
Yeah.
Deadly force, he said. Now, 2 weeks later, the suspect uses a taser against the police, and it was less lethal. They had no reason to defend themselves.
And so let's talk about a taser has a reasonable person to believe that it is not going to cause harm or death to the individual. That's why it's a less lethal, except if it's being used against law enforcement.
Exactly.
And you have an opportunity to incapacitate them and have access to your gun. This gentleman, by prior history and by his actions right there immediately preceding this, has showed a propensity to violence,
and that's
which
where the
ups
history
the
of,
ante.
And that's where his history from the past
Exactly.
comes into play for people to try and understand what happened. He had a propensity to create violence and create harm.
And would the media
Tell you
explain
that?
that? Would
No.
they explain that?
No.
So what came out in the media? Well, he was 18 feet away. That's not
really?
not 18 feet. That's not a threat unless you educate yourself and you realize that the taser cartridges are either 25 feet or 35 feet cartridges, and that is well within
18 feet.
Exactly. Here's the other thing too, Ed, that drove me crazy. Your district attorney there in Atlanta says, the officer has admitted to us that he heard that taser be discharged twice during the struggle. So a lot of the common tasers, the new ones, have 2 cartridges on them, so you can fire twice without having to replace the cartridge, right?
Right.
So I stand here and tell you that there is no way that officer in that struggle had any idea how many times that taser had been shot at that point.
I think he was hearing his partner's taser going off.
Right. So
That's what it was.
So when they run, so the district attorney's argument was, well, when he turned, there was nothing on that taser. If you watch the video,
you can see it.
You can see it, and if you listen to the body cam, you hear the distinct pop of a taser going off during that. The officer, initially running with him, was running with his taser out.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking about stopping this individual. This is, I'm still trying to apprehend him until that guy turns around and changes it to a lethal force scenario all day long, any place in the country.
But see, the 1% left, whatever you want to call them, they don't see it that way.
No.
And that's the problem. They only see what they want to see. And that district attorney, if you know what, when it comes down to it, that man tries to change the scenario of what took place. He said that the officers didn't render aid. He said they did nothing. Right. One of them even said he kicked him when he was down. He was pushing or kicking the taser away that the gentleman had in his hand for starters.
Right. Well, he also
did render aid.
And he also made a statement, the district attorney, that the officer was not justified in shooting this guy.
Right.
Not just,
right.
Which right there.
And he made that statement while Georgia Bureau of Investigations are still investigating. They came out and
he doesn't
said,
care about that.
They came out and said, we're still in the middle of this. We had no idea that the district attorney was going to take it upon himself to do these charges. And when you see these people out there on the internet saying they shot him in the back, that's a bunch of crap. If I stand here and I'm facing forward and I reach around and point a gun at you, a taser at you, whatever it is, if I'm shooting to defend myself, those rounds are going in the back. It's not what it's perceived as in the media. It's just ridiculous, the narrative that keeps getting placed. Guys, we got to jump to a quick break. We'll be back after the break and continue the discussion. 614-821-9886 is the number.
Okay. There's some people on Facebook that have posted that they've heard that officers and maybe supporters are taking down their blue line flags, the stickers off their cars, off their businesses out of fear. That may be true, but I'm here to tell you that I am not going to bow down to this, and I am not going to stop displaying my support of law enforcement, and I am going to fly my flag my blue line flag. I'm going to fly my Trump flag, and I'm going to stand up for what is right. This peaceful protesting facade is exactly what it is. It's not peaceful at all. And the majority of what I've seen are young kids that are doing this that have no idea what's going on in the world. They just want to create havoc, period, because that's what they were brought up to believe. They didn't have the parenting or the skills in life when they were in school and didn't pay attention.
What temp you got through him?
88.
Breaking story on a text.
If an auto accident caused you injury, call Elk and Elk at 1-800-ELK-OHIO.
Your ABC6 first warning weather for today. Lots of sunshine, hot and a little more humid, high of 89. Tonight, partly cloudy and warm, low of 68. For Sunday, that's Father's Day. Staying warm, a few scattered showers later in the day, and storms are likely, high of 89. Currently 88 degrees on your severe weather station, News Radio 610 WTVN.
I just got
Try to see it my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go on? While you see it your way, run the risk of knowing that our love may soon be gone. We can work it out.
The best I could do.
That's good. That's good.
That is the Beatles.
Welcome back to On Target. Paul, I'm sure hope we can work it out. I sure hope we can work this mess out.
Just want to intervene here for a second. Just got a message from a friend of mine in law enforcement. There has been a report of a shooting in the gun-free zone in Seattle. They called 911 to call the police because somebody's been shot.
Really?
Really?
Well, how did that happen? Because it was a gun.
Who's going to show up? Do they have their own?
They have their own law enforcement there. I'm surprised they're not handling it and investigating. But no, they've called the police for a gun.
Are they sitting in the social worker?
In the cop-free zone.
Because Albuquerque, New Mexico now has allotted a certain amount of money away from the police to social workers. They're going to have go on the scenes.
Oh, they're going to have them take care of it now?
Yeah, they're going to have them do that. So.
I think you got to send the mayors and the governors to respond to these calls.
Hey, Ed.
Thanks for that information, Sean.
Before we sign out here, first of all, next week, guys, we're going to talk about what you can do to protect yourself and your family during these times. Some things that we're seeing, some tips. But, Ed, let's talk about the blue line flags. That is now supposedly a racially charged symbol. The Gadsden flag. It's getting out of control.
It's way out of control. It's off the hook. I'm sick of it.
Yep.
I'm fed up with all the false narratives and all of this stuff that, if you want to take and start looking at what's racist and what's not, and maybe I'll be damned for saying this, but I look at that district attorney in Atlanta and listening to what he said about them not rendering aid, kicking the guy when he was down, not caring about this person, and leaving those tidbits out when he was in the courtroom. I want to say he's the racist.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how that appears?
He made it look so bad that they didn't care, and it's all on body camera, and he saw it, but yet he still would not say and made up stuff.
They will look at this guy and tell you it's purple, even though you're looking out the window at it. It's that amount of craziness. Folks, support your law enforcement. Stand up. It's going to take all of us. It's not, don't wait for somebody else. We need to all be supportive in this and be vocal and, get out to vote.
Who are you going to call when somebody's trying to break in your house?
Call that. You call hippie. Call bumper sticker.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Who are you going to call when your son or your daughter gets molested? Whether it be somebody they knew or not, who are you going to call?
Yeah,
you going to call these people in Seattle in their little city there? I don't think
craziness.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for spending the last hour with us. One of these days we'll get back to a gun show and a firearm show and talk about new products, but we don't even have old products in stock. So at the moment, we're just going to keep talking about the news of the day. Have a great week. Be safe. Stop by and see us. We're doing a lot of training right now, and we still have some inventory.
We don't have a budget for training. It was taken away.
Oh, we got a budget here. And ammo. We have plenty of ammo. So stay safe out there. Be careful. Next week, we'll talk a little bit about what you can do to help protect yourself and your family.
Hey, listen, you guys. Happy Father's Day. God bless everybody. Peace. Emily?
Yes.
Tell Eric I'm off probation and I'm starting. I'm going to be a mainliner on the show, and I want my picture up.
Yeah.
I don't
think
want
you
that
should.
one. I don't want that one.
You know what? We might have to take him off probation just to make sure our forces are strong enough here. I mean, as a probationary, you don't have all the abilities.
I think I'm done on probation. Don't you agree, Emily?
Were you going to protest?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Hey, don't burn down this thing because it's always.
I've been on Team Ed since the start, so.
There you go. Thanks, Em.
Thank you. All right, Eric, I'm ready.
Okay, give me 30 seconds here. Did we shake the bush today, Em?
Always.
4 callers in the first 5 minutes. That was good.
Yes, and then someone kept calling, so if you get a complaint, sorry.
You start answering the phone, maybe we wouldn't have that
Yeah,
issue.
you're right. I don't answer at all. You're right.
Okay, here we go. Oh, my Lord. I can't work on this environment anymore. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we discuss how to protect yourself and your family during these times, and I have the Gun of the Week sponsored by Clean Water Systems. Tune in Saturday at noon or live from LEPD Studios on Bethel Road. This is Eric from OnTarget. This week we discuss how to protect yourselves and your family during these times, and I have the Gun of the Week sponsored by Clean Water Systems. Tune in tomorrow at noon or live from LEPD Studios on Bethel Road. This is Eric from OnTarget. Today we discuss how to protect yourself and your family during these times, and I have the Gun of the Week sponsored by Clean Water Systems. Tune in today at noon or live from LEPD Studios on Bethel Road.
Thank you.
All right, ma'am. I will see you
Friday.
Yep, I will see you Friday, and I'll
I'll
tell
just
you. What's
text
that?
you when I'm on my way, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's fine. All right, that's the scoop, I think. Dude, we need to get on.